Welcome, everybody, to Council Checkup. I'm your host, Don Walmsley, and with me today is our Deputy Mayor, Brian Hedley. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
It's been a bit of time since you've been on this program. I think you and Councillor Murray Parrott were here at the same time.
Yep,
what a dynamic duo that was.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess really, let's start with the past couple of council meetings. What have you gleaned from them? What are things that we should be aware of? What's coming up? What's happened?
Well, I can't talk a whole lot about the budget, but the budget will be coming up here within the next I'm not sure what it is, 3-4 weeks, and but there's so many moving parts on it still, and then it still has to get run by the public and that, but. So that's coming up. Things definitely that can be talked about. Park Lake, that's exciting.
So where are we at? What's the most recent installment? Because I know what's going ahead.
Yeah. So last night we approved the bridge. So we have, what was it? $1.1 million bridge.
Holy
going into
that much for that little bridge?
I know everything has to be engineered, designed, but was approved last night.
Is it going into the same place?
Yes, very similar.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar. So that's exciting. Once we get that up and going, the access is okay right now, but it's it's still not 100% secure, and it's only a temporary access. So that was approved last night. We're hoping that this is going to be a nice slow melt.
Yes, we all are.
And that would really help out a lot of things. The boulders, the rock is. I think it'll be a few more weeks of hauling for it. So and then it's the riprap. So it's what the bank that holds everything in.
So it's going to start forming that berm or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So the first thing they had to do was take off all the vegetation. So on the new diking and that there can't be trees and growth and that in there. I'm presuming, I shouldn't say for a fact, but I'm presuming that it has
potential for erosion, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. And just, probably it's not the same integrity. So that had to all be cleaned off because there was a fair amount of, bush and that along there. And then there'll be work on that, this summer there'll be spring, summer, they'll be working on that, cementing in a new weir, new dam there.
Wow, that'll be interesting. I mean, when people go back, they're going to see definite changes to their Park Lake, but Park Lake will be in place. So the dike itself will be a natural dike. It won't be big cement things. It will be
the dike will, but where the water flow or the waterfall, it'll be a cement structure, and it's quite a bit larger. I think it's 3 times larger than the last one.
Well, that wasn't a very big one either,
that
outflow.
Yeah. And a lot of that work, I'm not sure if it'll be completed, by the end of the year, but certainly that's a goal, is to have as much done as possible this year.
Well, at what point, they're going to have to deal with water coming down?
Yeah. And
so do they divert that water? What happens in that case?
Just the fact that there is a river, bed in the center of it. Like I said, hopefully it's a slow melt, and we don't have a huge amount of water. When the rain actually came and they started realizing what had taken out the dam and that, the elevation difference is remarkable. I don't want to quote the numbers because I'll be wrong, but it's a very large elevation going up to Spring Hill and that. So the water comes quickly, and
yes, because they're up in the escarpment. They're starting to get up in the escarpment. We forget that.
Yeah.
We always work from ground level here ourselves.
Yeah.
So we forget that. Yeah, you're right. That would be a fair distance, fair drop.
Yeah, it is. And so like I said, a slow melt would help us. That will enable them to get in there and get working quickly. And and then like I said, hopefully no major rains so that the water can stay within the river part of that while they're working around both sides.
Around both sides.
Yeah.
That's it's going to be exciting to see. It's missed. I think people didn't realize. They always knew it was a nice little gem there, but didn't really realize that. Wow.
No, I know.
The wildlife, the bird life there.
Some of the things 25 years ago, 24 years ago, when I moved over here, some of the things that were highlights to myself and certainly the kids were like the bird sanctuary.
Yeah.
And so Park Lake was a part of that.
Yes.
And that, we found that having a young family, that was something exciting. Roxy Theater was something that, exciting in that. So there's different things like that. Lake Irwin is, we would be at a loss if we didn't have Lake Irwin as well. So, these are nice features for the community, and we're just so thankful that we're able to be able to replace Park Lake.
Oh, it is. And you talk about Lake Irwin. When I read historical stuff, Lake Irwin was quite a busy place with picnics and swims and all sorts of things happening there. Yeah. And over time things change, but it's interesting that that was quite an active place at one point.
Yeah, my mom, so home for us was Hamiota. Mom moved over here several years ago. She's in Kinsman. And but Mom grew up at Minnedosa, and excuse me, she remembered Lake Irwin, very much. Of course, Minnedosa had the lake there, so they didn't travel over to here, but she knew lots of, people that go to Lake Irwin when she was young.
Okay, so what else is happening?
What else is happening? Well, the water reservoir, that. The building went on top of the reservoir, and so I'm not sure how much longer. I'm going to say that we're looking at maybe 3 or 4 more months to get that project completed. So
that's pretty good, because that tripled our reservoir capacity. Am I correct?
You'll have had some of the experts on here tell you the exact numbers. I would only be guessing. It's something I could have looked up. I heard it when we first announced it all, but I can't remember. And I think it's something like that.
Yeah,
it's increased it.
Well, but
it's substantial. Like the amount of, I think it was 2 days or that we had for storage if in the event of something going down. And I think you're right. I think this takes us to 3 days. And, a lot of work can get done in 3 days. But still, it's just days for an entire community.
Well, and the community's growing, as we noticed from the census, yet again. So, okay, so the reservoir?
So the reservoir, I guess if we're going back out, I'm trying to look at my directions around town, the CN property, that there'll be some additional work done out there, some sidewalks and that, we'll be looking at this year.
What about, is there any interest in commercial? Because there's a band of commercial lots available there.
Yeah, so Marilyn Crew, our economic development officer, Marilyn has a lot of discussions. She constantly has different groups approaching her all the time with, and so, although I don't know of anybody active right now, she would know better than that, than I on that. But yeah, there is, the community it's at a point where more and more businesses are looking at it, the size of Neepawa as a community, and I think we'll continue to see further growth. So I don't think it'll be that many years that we'll start seeing, businesses pop up along there as well.
Well, the thing is, we've just had the announcement of a new hospital, which is a real pull and sort of almost a secondary industry, if you want to speak.
Yeah.
We've got that new hotel being built.
Yeah.
I gather that this will be the initial footprint, but it might have extensions or they might expand going forward.
That's what I've heard as well. You're right.
So there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
And our waste treatment, we were on a project for the waste treatment. We moved to the single cell. We had Denis and Howard Buffy in here talking about that and the water treatment. Absolutely incredible. I had no idea, some of the stuff that goes on there. But that's almost completed, isn't it?
Well, there's another stage to the wastewater, and which will be several $1 million project to come yet. So that's to come yet. But I'm the same as yourself. The operations of a sewage lagoon system and that, when I first came on council, it was kind of, I guess, we'll go out there and we'll take a look at this. Talk about interesting. Oh my goodness, is that ever interesting, the way things were processed in the past in this new system. Like it's quite incredible. And there's very few of these systems in Western Canada. I think maybe there's a few out east or that. This is one of the few out here. So, as a homeowner up in that end of town, every spring there was significant odor come off. As things start moving out there. And last year I didn't notice a lot, very much at all. And so I think already, even though the whole process hasn't been set up yet, definitely I've noticed a change already. So that's nice.
What impressed me, I asked Denis, I said, okay, this is fine. So what if our population grows by another 2,000, 3,000 people? He said, well, you add more discs.
Yeah.
I thought, wow.
Yeah.
That whole process for cleaning, changing all those, moving from one, moving to the other, very, very impressive.
Yeah.
And then Howard on the other end talking about when it comes out from the treatment plant, its balance is zero. There's nothing in there with the water.
Yeah.
It will change as it moves through your pipes and everything else, but thinking there's no chloride left, there's no all that kind of stuff. Very impressive to hear.
It is. And, we are so fortunate to have fellows like that, working for the community and that, because, there's water quality. It's funny because people say, well, there's an expectation that we're going to have water and sewer and good roads and that.
Yeah.
The expectation is that, and then we're looking for other stuff. The significant cost to have that initial expectation, having great quality water, having proper sewage systems and that. Boy, there's a lot of money has been invested in that.
Well, I often wonder, Canada has, 2/3 of the world's freshwater supply. We are blessed. That's the one big thing Canada has.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure our stewardship has kept up the way it should have been. And we can't be complacent to think, we're always going to have water.
Yeah.
They're
right.
talking, one of the things that we're going to hear more and more about is about climate change. Climate change means that places that had some water will be desolate. They're going to want to come to a place where there's water. Yeah. How do we manage that?
Yeah.
Because not all of our water is potable. A lot of it is in conditions where it costs a lot to live. So it's going to be interesting. So you're right. We need to make sure our source of water is secure, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And, there again, when I moved here, our water source was Lake Irwin. And certainly there was challenges with the changes of seasons with that water, whereas, this aquifer water is such a good quality water.
Yes.
Realizing it has to be treated, but it's still a good quality water.
So just to follow up, this past year, 2021, saw decisions made around the cemetery. How do you think that's gone in terms of a process or fallout?
Yeah, the cemetery was sure a challenge last year. You think in the last, I've been on one term, so in my term we've had excess rain, flash floods, and then went into a drought. And wow, when you're trying to look after a facility like that through all this, extreme weather, and I'm not saying that we're in extreme weather patterns in that, but just the last, like I said, in the last 4 years, there has been this extreme. So it's made it difficult to try and get the plans done that we've wanted to. For this coming year, we have, plans, continuation of the plans. Down at the cemetery, we've got some of the changes in that we're making on the boards there for people to read. And so we have to continue to get at that. Last year with the drought, Port Chilaka, growing up on the farm, I know Port Chilaka very well.
Yeah.
We had a seed cleaning plant. Dad was a certified seed grower. So we had the job of hand picking Port Chilaka around the farm
I remember
yard.
Port Chilaka as a kid. Yes, I do.
So it loves dry weather, and last year it grew like crazy out in the cemetery, and so as we were trying to level out the flower beds, try and get things down level, it came in. I guess seeds blowing in. Mind you, I've seen programs where some of these seeds lay dormant. I don't know if it's the same for them. It can be 60 years in the ground.
Yeah. Some plants, that's part of their.
So whether it was there before or whether it was blown in, I'm not sure. But boy, it really took over. So that had to be addressed last fall, and then certainly we'll go in and trying to do some better grass seeding this year. Last year without the moisture, there was no sense trying to get grass growing. That would have been just a waste of time.
Well, and a waste of moisture at that point. You want to not run into places like Morden where they ended up having to have a restricted water use, that kind of thing. I mean, they're finally, I think it looks like they're getting things on track, but that comes from, you need to be thinking ahead all the time.
Yeah, and we've been working with the Legion. We know that the Legion had ideas, some of the flower beds that we want to get in place.
Yeah.
And so we'll probably be looking at some of the flower beds this year. And
It never ceased to amaze me when we moved up here and found that the cemetery was actually a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Very just sort of, I'm used to that in European cities where the history goes back, 1,000, 2,000 years, but it really sort of surprised me. But it's a beautiful cemetery.
Yeah.
So I could see why after.
And the controversy, I understand with the flowers and that. That was very nice to have. But as the community is growing, we have to make sure the finances are focused in the right areas too. When we're looking after sewer and water and the streets
and everything. And streets. Let's talk about those. I mean, you had the asphalt recycler brought in. You changed your snow removal to more on hands, plus just contracting yourselves to a hauling company. Given the snow, they were down our street yesterday. Holy cow! Yeah. When they were digging down, we had to walk to work because we came in at lunch, and by the time we went to go out, but the pile was huge and all those big chunks of packed icy snow. Yeah. And wow.
Yeah, it's and certainly it has been a heavy snowfall winter.
Yeah.
It's certainly been a challenge to try and stay on top of that, and in talking with the two contract outfits and that, there's only so high that you can plow snow without having to try and use loaders to get it up higher and that. Cleaning out the streets, it's come at a wonderful time because as we start going into this melt, we definitely want to make sure that the streets are able to, to take the surface water. But the majority of our family is now in Winnipeg, and my goodness, if you want to see a real challenge, go into Winnipeg and try and get around. I'll tell you, I give our our town staff and our local contractors a lot of credit, because our community is so much better shape than Winnipeg is struggling, and even Brandon's struggling. Like, those are large centers that have a hard time trying to move out, large dumps of snow.
Well, as you keep hearing people in Winnipeg saying, so now we have another where am I going to put this?
I know.
Where am I going to put this? And to some extent I saw that, because they were hauling stuff off our roads, and I mean, we came back after work, it was all done, and they're still working away at it, and it seems to be quite the system. But watching that grader come through, it was no just sort of, well, we'll go down this time, we'll come back this time, we'll do a cleanup row. Not to get in there, it was work. Did a heck of a good job on the street.
Yeah, and going back to Winnipeg, to Winnipeg's credit, I saw one of the snow piles where they've been hauling to, and I know there's many around the city, but I saw one on the south end that I couldn't believe. I have never seen a pile of snow like that. So don't get me wrong, the city has probably done their job, but still on the side streets and that, like, you have to creep out so far because you cannot see
around the corner.
And everybody drives really slow in Winnipeg.
Yes, of course they do.
Of course.
Yes, of course.
So certainly our community, I know it's been, there has been challenges in that, definitely, but I really, when you get out and move around the province and see, our people have done a good job, really good job.
What's we'll jump ship a bit. What's left to do with the North 40, the walking trail?
Yeah,
bike park.
We haven't talked about that for a while. If memory serves me, at one point they were looking at some type of shelter out on up on top there. I'm not sure where that's gone to. I think the priority right off the bat was to get the trails, user friendly and that, which they have done. There has to be some repairs. I know there was a couple of areas where there has been some washouts and that, so there'll have to be some repairs put back in there this year. Tanya and I'm not sure. I don't want to exaggerate too much, but I would say at least 4 nights a week. Like sometimes we try every night that our walking route takes in the bike trail, and we walk out around there and then through the town. And boy, I just love that area. That
was really been a lovely addition. I think really nice. And we're talking about more, like I see on the plans, you're looking at a bit of a water slide or extension to the pool. Will that be this year or next year? Yeah,
the plans are to certainly to have the water slide and that in place. That facility will go through a few different phases.
Yes, I know there've been lots of talk, the need to update the entranceway, the washrooms, all that kind of thing. Because that was built, what, back in the 70s?
Yeah, I don't actually know, but for accessibility and that, like it's for anybody that needs proper accessibility. It wasn't there for that facility, and certainly just. When it was originally designed, it was fine, but now when we have vehicles looping in and around for the park, the little park there, and kids going into the pool, and there's lots of little kids darting out between the cars coming out of the pool area, so it's just a poor design.
I heard that they were rethinking that loop to be not that.
Yeah.
And more maybe a green space and parking, looking at parking somewhere else.
Yeah. And so there is changes. They're looking at different designs and different ideas, but and it's strictly it's a safety concern. So we looked at different designs of the slide in that this past year. Councillor Nadeau has been just a real advocate for that. His family, we'll go to different communities and stay, and they always love a water slide. So that's been really near and dear to his heart, and so we tease him quite often about his slide, but it is a great idea, and it's we don't have little kids in our family.
But we have a lot of young families
There's
now.
a lot of young families around,
Yeah.
and Danny and I have grandchildren that will be coming around and wanting to use that in a number of years. So yeah, that's going to be a real nice addition. And we know the whole Riverbend Park area and that is well used. A lot of people camp
Campground.
there.
I mean, I've know people who live elsewhere who've come and stayed, and we're very impressed with the campground.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really a positive thing.
Yeah.
So, have they announced yet where the hospital is going to be?
Well, no, they haven't. But I've thought about this, and I thought, okay, first of all, I'm not going to be the first one to know, and I won't even get to be able to announce it. But I've thought about this. Think about all the entertainment in that last number of months. People speculating.
Trying to put the positive spin on it.
It's almost like the weather. Gee, what's the weather like today? Where's the hospital going? People have had months of speculating on this, and actually I found it quite entertaining. But no, they're doing their due diligence on locations and that. It's no different than us when we're doing projects. You have to do test holes for soil and types and that. So I guess
it's a big project.
You
want to make sure you've done that up front. And a fairly large footprint. I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's significant.
So,
talk about exciting for a community. I'm not sure what you could ever announce that would be more exciting than having a new hospital come to a community.
Pretty big. Our hospital has done a lot of good service, but it's been needing a replacement.
Yeah.
At one point, it needed an upgrade. That was no longer the case the past number of years.
Yeah.
It needed to be replaced.
Yeah, that's right.
Just the number. Well, now with the numbers and numbers in the area, and the whole sense of in the rural area looking at hubs that provide essential support for an area with outlying facilities providing specifics. I think probably you're not going to have one in every community.
Yeah, no, that's
and
right.
I think that probably makes some good sense here, because we still have facilities that can provide healthcare of a different nature.
And think about our medical community.
Holy cow!
We are talk about blessed with the amount of doctors we have here, and
young doctors.
Yeah, and just the way they've organized themselves, and they've done an incredible job themselves. Certainly, they've attracted the attention of the province as well, and then with the community growth and Neepawa as a hub area like that has all really added to.
Well, we came here in '82, and there's been a lot of change.
Yeah. Watching
that change. One of the changes, and I'll throw this out at you, one of the changes has to do with traffic. I mean, we're getting so much traffic. There's a reason for it, clearly.
Yeah.
But you take a look at shift change at High Life, and the traffic down 16.
Yeah.
Or early in the morning. And we have one set of we have two. We have one at 5, and one at Mountain. But crosswalks we don't have. We have one. But is there any thought? Are you hearing from the province to at least do a study to see what else we might be needing here?
Yeah. Well, they're. I can't remember the terminology, but certainly there has been a study on Highway 16 going through Neepawa. I think I saw the original work of that when I first came here in '98. So they have got plans. We as a town have been lobbying to try and get traffic slowed down from High Life into town here as well because of the additional traffic. And yes, the shift changes that certainly adds to more congestion.
Yeah. See, to me, the numbers of 98, for sake of argument, 98, have no relevance now to the numbers of 2022.
Right.
They really need to do an upgrade on that study to see. It would be interesting to see what the change in flow in numbers have been. We know Highway 16 gets busy in summer because a lot of traffic reroutes off of number 1.
Anybody that has businesses out along there really studies that closely.
Yeah, yeah.
Such as ourselves, yes. And it is the difference in Highway 16 in July and August is, you're right, it's significant.
So it'll be interesting. I've had people comment wondering about the safety and other ways of being able to get across. It's fortunately people are pretty darn good at stopping when those lights flash.
Yeah.
They catch them and they see others or whatever.
Yeah.
You still have to be cautious, but that's thank goodness for that.
Yeah. No,
because there's a lot more young children living south to cross over to get to school.
Yeah.
There may be other things like that.
Yeah. And, our administration staff is constantly in contact and having meetings with what is it, MI Highways anyways.
Yeah.
So I know they're, if there's any changes or things, they're constantly in communication with them.
Oh, that's good.
And then one thing that just came to mind is when we were talking about, the area as being a hub in that, our RCMP headquarters.
Of course. How's that coming along?
It's coming along very well. And, I should have checked. I'm not sure what our timeline on it is, but if it's delayed, it's slightly delayed, but or if it's on time, I'm not 100% sure, but I know it has been going along quite well. Being that the type of facility it has to be, you can see that there's been a lot of hoarding and concrete work all winter long in that. So, that has to be a very strong building, and also it's built, and so is the fire hall built. Like I always wondered, why did we have to have such a heavier duty fire hall in that? But I didn't realize that for community planning, they want to see where the fire hall and the police station, if there's a natural disaster hitting a community, you want to make sure those buildings where your responders are going to be coming from are secure. So it's very simple to just have a wood frame metal clad fire hall, but if it's gone, in a disaster, if it's gone.
I hear you.
So these buildings are built, and thankfully people are thinking about that, because certainly that hadn't crossed my mind.
Well, you see, given the size too, I mean, it's and the technology now, it's potential for being a hub again.
Yeah.
Nice new building, new fire hall, and of course being in close proximity. I know I've talked to both Mark and Eve, and the gym in the fire hall. They're using it together with the RCMP, and they both talked about our members get to know each other.
Yes.
Because they're turning up at scenes together.
Yeah.
And so the flow of working together just is far more it's facilitated by that kind of contact. And they do some training together. I was very impressed with that. I thought that's the way it should be, especially in a community, a smaller community, but that services an area because they're going to be going out to the same calls.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also, a few weeks ago, we put out a call, plug in for the fire department. They are looking for additional firefighter volunteers. Yeah. And so certainly if anybody in the public is interested in looking at something like that.
All right.
definitely be looking for candidates there.
Okay.
They're not really looking for old guys like myself, and I know the weight of some of those hoses, so
Yeah.
and I should be at the gym more than I am, but I'm not, so we need some good, young,
it's a
healthy
young
people.
man's job
It
for
is.
the most
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
An experienced older guy, but it's a young man's, job,
Yeah.
and quite rewarding.
Yeah.
It really is amazing. Amongst all the sort of service professions, firefighters rate very high in consumer regard. They're in there. I mean, it takes a very different kind of person to run into a burning building.
Oh, and you think, the part that always amazes me is we're not a large enough center. These are not full-time.
No, these are
volunteers.
It's really quite and fast.
Yeah.
I mean, they get out there. Well, I think it's helped too that we have Eve as sort of a full-time fire chief. That's in his blood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I think he grew up with a fire truck in his crib. I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
So it's just really done well.
Yeah, and he's got such a good team there. No, we have a tremendous group that respond, and so annually we try and update we've budgeted again to update their suits. We're trying to continually change out their suits so that they have good equipment. We have a new fire truck on order.
Ooh.
So that,
I'll have to bring Eve in. You can spend a whole hour talking about the new fire truck.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's council or whether it's the town or whether it's the co-op board. Everybody loves new machinery. Everybody loves a truck.
New toy, right? A new toy, especially
Exactly.
if it's a truck or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna change a bit and talk about. So this is your first term.
Yes.
And you also have assumed the role of deputy mayor. So talk a little bit about that. Like, I know we in past sort of casually mentioned, but now you're moving into the end of your first term.
Yeah.
So your reflections on that. What would you say?
Well, I remember standing up at Arts Forward on the stage there and somebody saying, with the different options of the cemetery, which one would you choose? And so I made a wisecrack that, like Tanya and I walk in the cemetery all the time, and if I have the choice, I would choose the option to be able to walk in there and walk out. I had no idea what options they were talking about.
Oh dear.
And in the past, as a company, I've tried to ensure that we had, more than just a year plan ahead for the company, and tried to plan 10 years in advance for our company. And so coming into the town, I thought, I think it'd be nice to see them do longer planning. Well, I didn't realize the amount of planning that is done, and so the town's planning definitely was running 5-10 years in advance. I would say this past term that we have maybe taken that more to a generational planning.
Really?
To about a 30-year timeline in that, and maybe in some aspects, depending on the item, beyond that. So the planning has changed, and our administration staff, I very much admire the people that are working there. They have some really long-term visions, great ideas. Over the 25 years that I've been here, the administration has had some ups and downs, and
yes.
But this group is really working well together, and it's exciting.
Well,
it's fun to be part of the planning in that.
Fairly stable.
Yes.
For the past while.
Yeah, it is.
As you said, there were some ups and downs and some fluctuations. But, was it what you anticipated?
It is better than I anticipated. Well, first of all, I didn't realize that you got onto so many other boards. Each councillor has a portfolio, and so I hadn't quite understood that. So there's a lot more boards that you're involved with. That's been interesting. I have emergency services, so I've got fire department, police department, and I'm on NADCO and medical clinic. So, there was a whole area that I hadn't been exposed to with before. Now, my old board president and my very dear neighbor, Ken Rogers, Ken was on NADCO for years, and so I knew a little bit about NADCO from Ken, but I have really enjoyed being on that board. That's very
That's
good.
been a fairly long-standing board here.
Yes, and excellent people on there. Yeah. So that that part was good. I think, like I said, the eye opener, the planning that goes on, and just as a businessman in town, you think, I have a pretty good grasp on what goes on in town. Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't know half of what went on, and understand things. Something as simple as we need more streets paved in town. Okay. Why aren't the streets all paved? Why don't you just go pave the streets? So, all of a sudden, do you go pave a street, and then a week later you have a water main break, or you have a sewer line disruption or that? Or do you try and set it up so that you go in and you completely do a street? Well, to completely do a street is $400,000 to fix everything. Wow, and so no, you can't just go pave things. We do as best as we can to micro-seal some of the better paved areas around to hold it longer. Okay. And some of the poorer areas, we have to dig up the entire street. So that was a learning lesson. You can't just go in and just put a lipstick on a pig, because it's going to backfire on you. And in this case, doing streets properly is extremely important. Davidson Street, even, a main street like that, digging that up, there was a lot of little surprises in deep down in that street that they didn't know about.
Yeah, because honestly, records weren't necessarily as meticulously kept.
No.
Several decades ago, as they have to be now for accountability.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this 4 years has been a real learning curve for me, but talk about enjoyable and great people to work with. And our council, we've had a wonderful council to work with. Blake has been a great leader. Councillor Parrott and Councillor Gerard, having the additional, having been on for several other terms, the wealth of information they brought. Boy, I really would feel sorry for anywhere in the province where the whole council turned, because there's
the learning curve is so steep, and to get up to speed, you don't understand some of the background or that kind of thing.
Exactly. No, the information they brought has been extremely helpful to us that had just joined on.
So tell me something. You're a councillor, but you've also assumed the deputy mayor role. What's the difference?
Well, so for instance, last night Blake was away, so I ran the council meeting. So it's it's like any board, a vice president, or they just assume those duties in the absence of the mayor. And I think just the fact that you're involved with a lot of aspects, a lot of the community. So, like I said, it's been an interesting ride. That's for darn sure.
So if we take a look at what you see, you've talked about that 30-year. Where do you see Neepawa potentially going? There are all sorts of mitigating factors, but all things being equal, where do you see Neepawa, let's say in 10, 20 years?
Yeah, well, we are going to continue to grow as a hub. We have a very strong agricultural base around, and along with we have, the manufacturing plants here. We have a very strong business hub. I think we're going to see the community continue to grow. It's almost doubled in size, since we've been here,
yes,
both of us. And will that speed up? Yeah, I would think it would. When will we double in size again? Well, I'm not sure, but could it be within that 20-year period? Yeah, I'm thinking it could. So then all of a sudden now that if we get to a size like that, now you're heading towards city status, small city of course.
Yeah.
But I think we will continue to see additional businesses coming to the community. It'd be nice if we could secure some additional manufacturing or processing plants, know, and but yeah, no, I definitely see this community growing. And
well, we're on that stretch. It's like the Morden Winkler Altona trio. We are right along within 30 clicks of either side of other communities who are having spin-off benefits. There's no question. We've had migration from here to Gladstone for sure, a little bit to Minnedosa, and people are coming into Minnedosa on their own, not anywhere near the numbers that we're seeing in like Gladstone as a secondary location. But what do you see? Do you see any kind of more collaboration happening in the future between the three?
Definitely, and there's a lot of ongoing discussions even currently with different community groups, and so yeah, I think we're going to see that just continue to build as well, and you're right. I can't remember the numbers. I went through the census and I was looking. I know both Gladstone and Minnedosa have been growing as well, and so yeah, that gives a nice base to be able to continue to work from.
Well, certainly in this area, right? Because it has implications. What's your take on the housing situation here?
Well, we've got a good start into it, but certainly that has to continue. As a town, we still have property on Eastview.
Yes.
So there's opportunities there. I think we'll see. I know there's still a lot of interest around the community. I think we'll see future projects that are.
I think we need to. I mean, people are looking for housing, and if we're going to look at people coming here, they're going to need housing.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dilemma to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it was, if we go back, probably, say 8 or 10 years ago, it was critical. And the needle has moved forward, but it's still in a position that there still has to be some significant housing done yet. Unfortunately, the pandemic has created numerous problems. Costs have been tremendous. Cost increases, transportation delays, ocean shipping delays, chip manufacturing delays, everything. So it's all added significant costs. So we need a lot of housing, but the costs of a lot of this has been increasing too.
Inflation's rising. It just really has been the tragic conflict happening over in Eastern Europe.
Oh, goodness,
has impacted all sorts of areas as well, and will continue.
Yeah.
So if you were to have your own crystal ball, What would you say, in your mind, would be the primary, let's say the top 3 or 4 primary things you feel should be accomplished by a future council?
Future council, well, certainly, like infrastructure. Help me out here. Our community is what, 120 years old? 120 years old, whatever,
at least,
you know.
Yes.
And so infrastructure, water and sewer community, that has to be continually updated. Along with that, then we can be updating our streets as well. So infrastructure, housing definitely is a priority. At one point I would have said medical, but I think we're certainly on track for something there.
It really seems to be. There's a really solid system in place, and we've got really good crew of people. Yeah, really good.
So you know, I would say that recreation would be another area that I'd like to see continue going as well, and certainly that is a forefront with the council, the current council. And I think a lot of the things that are plans that are being put into place for the future will be continuations. Past councils have done a tremendous job to set things up. Like when you think about what has happened in the past 4 years, you know, that didn't just magically happen with this council. You know, there was groundwork,
a lot of groundwork done
much
before.
Set up ahead of time. And there's many people that can take credit for that. And but our council was able to reap a lot of benefits out of that, but has set up a lot of groundwork for future councils as well.
And that really has to be that sort of process, building layer upon layer upon layer, making sure the foundations continue to be solid as you go along. Yeah.
You know, we were recently, Braden was in high school hockey, just finished out his year with, and so again, I often refer to hometown Hamiota. And you know, the community center was built, I'm not sure, 70s. And it's funny because that is the focal point for that community. You know, when the high school hockey games that we went over for, that whole community, everyone come out to watch the hockey games, and that community that's their community center. And that's the kind of planning that needs to go into Neepawa. Is what is Neepawa going to look like 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, and make sure that we have plans, at least ideas for that direction.
Okay. We're coming close to the end of our time together, so it's moved along fairly quickly.
Yeah.
You're a lot more verbose than you said you were.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add? Any message you'd like to get across to the folk, or any thoughts about the upcoming summer? I meant to ask, are you guys starting to think about Canada Day?
Yes, we certainly are, and in fact, we received a nice grant last night that we discussed, and to add to our fireworks.
Oh, lovely!
Spot.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure what all the plans will be, but certainly, you know, I think everyone has suffered through the last 2 years, and everyone is looking forward to. I know the virus isn't gone, but I sure hope that it's in a manageable state now, that we can actually get back to normal life again and start enjoying the community. You know.
Well, I guess with the lifting of restrictions, that's exactly what we'll find out. Where our herd immunity is, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know it's still impacting in other countries around the world significantly, but at what point does life go on? You're quite right. It's one of those questions that who has the right answer?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is going to be a time will tell.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not really. I think we're all looking forward to spring and some nice weather, and Be nice if we have some nice normal weather.
Well, it would be, and I agree. Your comment right at the beginning about the slow melt. We have a ton of snow.
Oh, yes.
In our yard, and a slow melt and dry ground, but it was frozen. It was pretty cold.
Yeah.
So then you're lucky it will start warming up, and we'll see that the ground can handle the moisture if it's not frozen.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's really the critical piece, I think.
Yeah. So we just look forward to a good year, a good agricultural year.
Yes.
For some of us that depend on that.
Well, and a lot of farmers I've spoken to are cautiously optimistic.
That's right.
But then most farmers are always cautiously optimistic.
They have to be.
Really, they have to be, exactly. You can never tell. So it's going to be interesting, all sorts of implications worldwide.
Yeah.
And there's just lots of stuff on everybody's plate.
Yeah.
It's tumultuous times.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We are fortunate to be living where we're living, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Our guest today has been Brian Hedley, our deputy mayor. Coming to the end of your first term.
You bet.
Okay. Yeah. Gosh, it went fast, didn't it?
That went extremely fast.
Yeah. Again, thank you for tuning in. I repeat, if you have any questions you'd like me to raise to the people who come and sit in these chairs, I'd be happy to raise them with them. So don't feel free to contact the Banner Press. Leave your comments for Rain, and that's RRAIN, and she'll pass them on, and we'll certainly ask the questions. Don't worry about it. So until next time, thank you again. Enjoy our early signs of spring, and like both Brian and I here, let's hope for a nice, slow, regular melt so that the moisture gets into the ground where it needs to be and we don't get flooded out basements. So have a good day, everybody.